See what I see? All these people, and not a nacho fry in sight. Where'd you get that? If Taco Bell won't keep nacho fries on the menu, we will.
Yeah!
Let's go get that cheese.
Yeah, let's go get the cheese.
Dude,
Hey.
my favorite part is the contrast, because I'm the dorky white guy that looks at him and goes, "Let's go get that cheese."
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go get that cheese. So, if you don't know, this is another episode of the Backstage Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Connor.
And I am JT Harker.
And today we have another very, very special guest. This is a friend of the show. This is a phenomenal guy, a phenomenal actor. He's been in a bunch of shows and movies that we all know and love, such as Blind Spotting, Hawaii Five-0, Lucifer, The Haves and Have-Nots, Snowfall, and he is now currently the new star of the latest Taco Bell campaign. So you've probably seen him all over your commercials and all over your TVs by this time. John Chaffin, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man? Thank you
How
for
you
having
doing?
me, bro. Thank you
Yeah,
for
man.
having me.
John, you out of Atlanta?
I live in LA. I'm from Atlanta.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
So, I got to represent the home team.
Yeah, he representing with the, if you can't see him, he's got a throwback. Is that a Dominique jersey?
That's neat, baby.
It should be. Uh-oh. Yeah. 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 He's playing deep. Yeah, dude.
That was my jam.
So John's representing for the ATL.
So John, we just started actually last episode doing like this day in history.
Yeah.
In sports history.
Oh,
and
100%.
honestly, today there really hasn't been a lot because it's Kentucky Derby season, and usually all the big sporting stuff go around Kentucky. Kentucky Derby's been going on since the 1800s.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot. But there are two that we will discuss very quickly.
Yeah.
1969, the Milwaukee Bucks signed the #1 NBA draft pick, star UCLA Lou Alcindor, who obviously became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget, especially youngsters, don't know that Lou Alcindor won a championship before he was Kareem with the great Oscar Robertson with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Kudos to Kareem. And this other one, 1989, Mike Tyson gets his second speeding ticket for drag racing in Albany, New York.
What?
And that's all we got, unless we want to talk Kentucky Derby.
And that's sports history for today.
Here's a fun fact, though. Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, is my wife's cousin.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Another fun fact, he's basically my cousin because we share the same birthday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how it works typically.
First of all, kudos to Frank Gore, who's now officially my hero. He's 37 years old and just signed a 1-year deal with the New York Jets.
Oh, wow.
Which is unbelievable to think about. He's also the third in all-time rushing yards.
But Frank has been underrated, I feel like, for almost his whole career. And I feel like even now as an older back, I feel like he can really be a valuable piece on a lot of different teams. I would take him. You know what I mean?
He absolutely can, especially in the locker room, man. He's incredible.
That's got to be the quietest all-time rushing yards. I didn't even know Frank was up there. I mean, I knew he was in the league since, forever, but third all-time rushing?
Right.
That's crazy.
Sneaky good.
I saw him play in Miami.
Yeah. I would take him on the Eagles.
One I wanted to talk about was Aaron Gordon just released another diss track.
What?
Called Pull Up. And I just want to say, and I feel bad. I feel bad because San Jose, California does not have a lot to be proud of in terms of sports heroes. We do have some, but we don't have a lot. And Aaron Gordon's from my hometown, and I think he's incredible. He's one of the best athletes to ever come out of San Jose, but I wish he would pull up on his music career.
I wish he would pull up.
That's what I wish.
For real. Me too. Like, he's not doing San Jose any favors, nor is he doing the rapper basketball player any favors either.
Yeah, nah.
And someday I'll probably meet him, and I hope he doesn't punch me in the face. But Aaron, just no more music. No more music.
Please.
But you are the unrecognized two-time dunk champion. I will say that.
Right. Yeah, he definitely got robbed. He will forever be that guy who got robbed in one of the best dunk contests that I think we've had. It's up there.
Oh, here we go. This is the one I wanted to tell you guys. Mark Cuban still has copies of Dennis Rodman's number 69 jersey that he wanted to wear when he was with the Mavericks.
Is he trying to pawn it off?
I didn't even know he was on the Mavericks at any point.
He played for them for a very rough minute.
A very rough minute.
And I need to say this as well, and we can lead out of this into the documentary. But Isaiah Thomas, I love Isaiah. I think he's an incredible player. But dude, this dude in the 90s on the Arsenio Hall show said no questions about it, Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. Then later on said that, I think he said Kareem was the greatest player of all time. And now he's changed his mind and believes that Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest of all time. You need to pick one, bro, because all those other two guys played before MJ.
Well, he also said that I think a lot of people change their mind over time, right? Or something might happen where they will feel differently because of an event that happened, right? Or something like that. So I think I think he's allowed to have a fluid idea of who he thinks the GOAT is. You know what I mean? I don't think it's nothing wrong with that. Like whoever today I think it's LeBron James, but 6 years from now it might be somebody else.
Tomorrow you might think it's Bron James, and the day after that you might think it's Bron James, and the day after that you might think it's somebody else.
I'm saying
until Bronny passes his dad, you're not going to think it's anybody else.
With new information comes new opinions. It's, you know what I'm saying? So let Isaiah. This documentary has really been showing me. Actually, I tweeted this out the other day. I said, out of all the things that people have been taken from this documentary, the thing I took from it was how imperfect Michael Jordan actually is, despite what people want to lead you to believe, and how underrated I think Isaiah Thomas is.
Yeah.
I agree with I actually agree with both the things you just said.
Yeah, and I think Isaiah is still trying to make up for that for his playing days. I mean, walking off the court and ducking your head down as you that's like that's.
But he was, to his credit, he's saying they did that to them, so he felt like that's just how he handled things. You know what I'm saying? Like you just keep it moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but when you watching the doc and you saw them beat the Bulls, Jordan and them shook hands when they walked.
Right? No, they did.
Yeah. It's one thing, and I didn't know that the Celtics did that to them.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood it, but then exactly, it's if you beat the Celtics or you lose to the Celtics, that's one thing. But a team that you've been destroying for 2-3 years, and every time they're going shaking your hand. But you know what, man? It's sports. I think I remember Kobe Bryant doing the same thing. That really doesn't bother me.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't bother me.
The whole thing was really overblown. Like
I think it's overblown. It's not good sportsmanship. They shouldn't have done it. Lambeer was the leader of it. Lambeer's kind of Lambeer. He's a different guy. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But MJ and Isaiah didn't like each other. One thing that was very telling to me, and I was around that. I remember the Dream Team. I watched all the Olympics. I remember all the storylines. Mm-hmm. But you things get hazy over the years. And I do want to point this out. I remember that the story was MJ didn't want Isaiah on the Dream Team, but apparently 9 out of the 12 guys at least didn't want Isaiah on the Dream Team.
Right.
So Isaiah back then was just kind of a jerk and people didn't want him on the squad.
But at the end of the day, and that's another part of the documentary that really struck a chord with me. This idea that Jordan putting it off as, well, it wasn't me, right? But then he took you through the conversation when they called him and they said, we want you to play on the Dream Team. And the first thing he said was, well, who's all playing? Now, have y'all know when y'all invite somebody to a party, you invite somebody to the cookout, and the first text back you get is, who all gonna be there? You know they ain't coming, right? You know either they not coming or you got to tell somebody else not to come. Right. Exactly. So when he started with, well, who all is playing, and they said, don't worry, like, we're not inviting him. He was like, well, I didn't say his name. They knew who you was talking about. Isaiah was the elephant in the room. They knew you were talking about Isaiah.
But he was one of at least nine other guys that didn't want to.
But he was the guy. He was the guy. They had to, if Jordan wanted him to play, he would have played.
Yeah, but I think if it was just Jordan and Pippen alone that didn't want him to play, I don't think that, because Chuck Daly was the coach and he fought for him to be on the team. But when you got that many guys, because Bird hated him too. Bird hated him, and people forget because him and Magic were such good friends, and then they are now friends again. He burned a bridge with Magic, and they hated each other. That was like his best friend.
Yeah.
But
Remember back,
in my opinion, he still should have been on the team. But,
of course, Isaiah Thomas is the second greatest point guard to play the game.
Facts.
I would agree with that.
Johnson. I mean, it's Magic, then it's Isaiah, and then you can start filling in after that. Right. So that was all politics and personal vendettas that kept him off that squad. Right. I remember a few years back, they had a documentary on ESPN about the Bad Boy Pistons, and they was following the Pistons and how what they were going through coming up, and watching that gave me even more respect for Isaiah. So I really feel like it just depends on who's telling the story or where the narrative is coming from. If it's Michael and them, then you're going to hate Isaiah because the only thing you remember is him walking off the court and dropping his head. But people forget about the mentality that, like he was saying, that they had back then. Right. You know, it's not buddy like it is now. You know, everybody, you know, Isaiah, Magic, and Michael was not going to ride a banana boat in the off season.
But let's pause there, because I think that is also a bit of a misconception from the days past that has carried on. You know, with nostalgia comes a lot of fantasizing about things of the past, and a lot of things get washed away, right? And so we constantly hear this narrative of, well, back in my day, we was beefing and everybody hated each other, right? That's one of the things I noticed in the doc too. I noticed this before the doc. But that's one of the things that was confirmed visually for me in watching the doc is a lot of these guys were friends, right? A lot of these guys, Magic and who was it? And Isaiah kissed on the cheek. You know what I'm saying? You know, before games, a lot of these guys was playing golf, but they was playing golf. They was playing golf while playing in the same series together.
Right, but that.
So I think it's overblown. It's overblown. Like they had a banana boat crew. You know what I'm saying? Even down to the dream team. Like Michael and Magic said, we had such a good time because the camaraderie was so good. It was so strong. We all liked each other. The only person we ain't like was Isaiah. They all liked each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the difference is, and this is where I was just on Twitter today, John. I was telling Joe that I've always not liked Twitter because it's just I haven't really understood it. But with the sports conversations, I see why Twitter's so big, because you can I went down a rabbit hole for 2 hours sitting on Twitter. I don't ever sit doing anything for 2 hours. Like I was just going back and forth with these guys, and I'm like, you just get sucked into these conversations. But what gets me is when guys go so extreme. Like nobody was friends back then.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about, dude? Like that makes no sense. Why would nobody be friends? Guys grow up. Mark Aguirre, who is a very underrated player, who won championships with the Pistons, who was an all-star before he went to the Pistons and basically gave up a Hall of Fame career to go win championships. And Isaiah grew up in the same neighborhood. They were friends growing up, literally. And then when I think 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 in the draft, like it makes no sense. Some guys were friends and some guys weren't. Yeah. And it doesn't bother me now that guys are friends because it's even more so.
It's not.
They didn't have AAU tournaments where you were hanging out with all these kids from all over the world. It's not.
But they were playing poker together. They were playing golf together. Sometimes during the season, they would hang out before the games, and after the games, they was hanging out during series. Like this is all stuff that actually happened. But then we let with time goes by, and now all of a sudden everybody hated each other. It was way tougher.
It wasn't
got people silly. People saying stuff like Jordan would average 60 today. Like, come on, y'all. Like it's like
he wouldn't average 60. He would average like 63. But the point is, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But the point is that it is more prevalent now, but there's a reason for it. It's not just, guys are soft and they're just friends. There's a reason guys are friends because they are they didn't have these back then. Right. You couldn't just text the guy and say, hey man, I'm sorry for hitting you in the face. Can we still be friends? You know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing.
Right. And in the way the game was called back then, it could leave some sour taste in your mouth. Because I'm telling you, them Pistons weren't playing, man. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If you came in the hole, they was knocking you out.
Right.
So you talking about going hard for 45 minutes,
right,
and then trying to shake hands afterwards. It's going to take a little time, and because they were not considered the team that the league really wanted to be at the forefront, they had that chip on their shoulder. Now, I don't agree with walking off the court when there's still seconds ticking on the clock.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I don't think that particular was the catalyst. I don't think that was the actual. I think it was a build up, and that might have been the thing that kind of tipped it over.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching the Bad Boy Pistons doc, it was like nobody in the league liked the Pistons.
Right.
And so that's why they really formed a bond to where, like, it's us versus everybody else.
Because it was literally.
And the Pistons still don't get their just due because
they don't.
Because I looked this up and I didn't realize this back then. So, I mean, the NBA makes their money off ratings, right? During this time, the 80s into the 90s, the NBA was higher than it had ever been. Magic and Bird brought it to a level it had never seen. And then MJ brought it to a level that it had never seen. But it's a buildup, right? So in the 80s, the highest watched, the most watched games were when the Lakers played the Pistons, the Celtics played the Pistons, and the Bulls played the Pistons.
Yeah.
The Pistons were the most watched in the entire league when they played those teams. And then, but when the Lakers played the Celtics, which is considered the biggest rivalry of that era, it wasn't as big as when the Lakers or any of those teams played the Pistons.
Yep.
And no one talks about the Pistons being one of the most watched teams.
And that's why I was saying the documentary for me has just shined a light on how much I think that Isaiah's underrated. Isaiah Thomas is the only player out of all of those greats from that era who can say, I beat Michael, Magic, and Larry.
True.
And won championships doing it, right? No wonder everybody hated him. He was the only guy who beat everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really think I don't think he ever really gets the respect that he deserves from our era and our generation, because we talk about Magic, we talk about Michael, and we talk about Larry, and we talk about all these other guys, when Isaiah is like, not only did he beat the greats, but he was a small guard. He was the first of like the small guards who was really out there killing them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That particular time, it was a big man's game.
I agree with that. But I've always said that Isaiah, because I mean, before this documentary, you almost never hear about Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
When I was growing up, Isaiah was looked at as a killer.
Yeah.
Because he was winning, and then I guess the rivalry and the hatred with MJ. And look, Isaiah, they didn't like him for a reason, and it wasn't just winning. Because Larry and Magic won, and nobody hated those guys as far as people. You know what I mean? Like, Isaiah made a reputation.
But Pistons was roughing people up too. I mean,
right. But Isaiah did say he did have some controversial stuff that he said about Bird that really made people not like him, because they were saying Bird. The reason why I remember watching the doc on the Pistons, and he said something about the reason that Bird was heralded the way that he was because he was white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And so that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way at that particular time.
He used to say a lot of stupid things, and that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason they didn't like him too.
He
but
said when we would play in the cookout on the backyard amongst each other, he said that in public.
Right.
It's like, whoa, I said,
right.
This ain't really supposed to be. And at that particular time, Bird was, the guy,
Right.
So for Isaiah to come at him like that, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So then everybody started hating the Pistons, basically because of Isaiah, and then they fed into it. Right. It was like, well, if you're going to hate us, we're going to give you a reason to hate us.
Right.
If we're going to be a villain, we're going to be the best villains that there is.
Right.
So you have that going into it. And then what he did with the Bulls. And so it's,
Also, Isaiah, like, I love you and I respect you, Isaiah. But listen, we have most people's top 10 lists of greatest players of all time. Can we have one? Can my people have one guy? Can we have Larry Bird, please? We have no one else. There's no
Larry is
one
the
else.
guy.
There is no one else that is even close to being on that list. Not
Right.
Jerry West. Not anybody. Not Bill Walton. Not any of these guys. Just give me one guy.
Yeah.
Give me one guy.
I think he gives it up to Larry Nail though. I think he does. I think he
does.
that.
I think he does.
I think he's past that.
And Larry was nasty with it, man. I was
I was just watching some video of him yesterday. Oh my God. He was unreal. And he and people, because he was even wider than me, people diss his athleticism. Dude, I got a couple of videos on here I could show you guys where he looks like he's getting up there decent. He was not unathletic. He just looked unathletic because of his stupid hair.
He did have a little more athleticism than people give him credit for. I will give him that.
He did. He was dunking on some people, and you see his rise. He was getting up, but people don't realize he started dealing with injuries in an era where medicine was not where it's at now. Yeah. He was dealing with injuries very early on because when he first came in the league, he was skying and dunking on people.
I think one person that could possibly get to where Larry Bird is right in today's game is Luka Doncic.
God, I hope so.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think he's gonna be. I think he can be better because he's so young. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't want to be blasphemous, but I think he can be better than Larry Bird just because he's so young and he's so good already. It's like
true.
Nowhere to go but up for him. So that'll be interesting to see. The other thing I thought was interesting about the document about these last episodes were them actually touching on Michael Jordan off the court, which for me is a big part of my GOAT conversation. And I don't think people really realize that. Like to me, when you talk about the greats, I don't just take into account what you did on the court. I take into account like how you were off the court, how you were as an ambassador, how you are as a person, as a man, as a humanitarian. I take all of that into account, right? Because to me, I don't just look at talent. Like Antonio Brown is a phenomenal talent, but he's not that great of a person. You know what I mean? So if I'm ranking wide receivers, if I'm doing all-time wide receivers, I'll take that into account when I'm talking about it. You know what I'm saying? I think it affects Terrell Owens, right? Yeah. Terrell Owens had to wait to get into the hall an extra round because of the type of person that he was off the field. You know what I mean? So I think when you talk about greats, it's a part of it. And for me, I listened to something that Jay Williams said today on the show that he was on, and it really summed up my opinion of the GOAT conversation and a large part of why I feel the way I do. And I want to play a clip of that real quick so we can see it and talk about that.
When we consider the greatest of all time, this is why I think LeBron James is the greatest of all time. I think that the lack of willingness of Michael Jordan to speak out brings me to the ultimate conclusion that LeBron James putting his career in jeopardy to speak out about things that he feels are personally relevant to him and about where we are. And I do feel like LeBron James has had some mishaps. He's had some missteps. But ultimately, you feel like he is on the path. And once again, this is subjective, and this can cause people to be divided. I understand that. And Michael Jordan didn't divide people at that time as far as it relates to political things. But I do like the fact that LeBron stands up and speaks out on the injustices that are happening in the world. And when I look at guys, when we talk about greatest of all time, I think about Muhammad Ali, I think about guys like Jim Brown, and I think about guys like LeBron James.
So that was basically on the heels of them talking about Jordan and the Republicans buy shoes comment, you know, him shying away from a lot of the big things that were going on during that time, whether it was racially motivated or whatever. That was a big part of it. And to me, Jay Williams summed up how I feel about it. Like I take that into account in the GOAT talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that I think it's all encompassing. I think it's what you do on the court and off the court. How do you affect the game and how do you affect society?
Yeah.
You know? Because with that platform comes a responsibility. I mean, too much, what does it say? To whom much is given, much is required. So,
and I feel like that's where Jordan failed to me.
Yeah. And I get it because I remember I remember being young and him saying that comment and hearing all the backlash about it, and then it didn't help that they was also getting on his gambling. So
yeah.
But I also feel like it's a different era also right now, whereas this is an era now where not just LeBron, but even more athletes are speaking up across the board.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Jay Williams. I do think that has to be factored into the equation of greatness. But I mean, Kobe didn't stand up for nothing that we can remember. God rest his soul. But I don't remember Kobe speaking out on anything while he was playing. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that he's not going to be considered the greatest of all time? And I don't think Michael's political stance should have anything to do with his basketball.
But for Michael, it wasn't political. That's the thing. Like I want to be very clear in not making and deciphering things that are political and things that are moral, or things that are more of a human thing, right? Like the thing about the Republicans buy shoes, two things. It wasn't a political statement. If you understand the backstory of that, it was about Jeffrey Helms running against another candidate who happened to be African American, but Jeffrey Helms was widely known to be an overt racist person. You know what I mean? So the comment that was said was covered up as a political comment, but it wasn't. It was racial, it was ethical, it was moral. And I think it's important in today's time to draw the difference between what is political and what is humanitarian, what is ethical, what is moral. You know what I mean?
I do think it's a choice whether you want to get involved in politics, but that was also a joke said on a bus with teammates. Now,
I don't think it was a joke because it outlined.
It wasn't. They addressed it. It was a joke.
It outlined how it was, but it was an insight into how he lived his whole career. Jordan shied away from any type of thing.
Yeah,
that would touch his sales. So it was
right. That's true.
It's a little truth behind every joke.
But that's what I'm. Well, that's not true because I've said a bunch of jokes that I don't really feel. They're just funny in the moment.
But he lived
that could be. Yeah, but that was a joke. He said a joke on the bus.
I'm saying he lived that comment. He lived it.
Yeah, but when we're separating politics from moral, I don't think he lived an immoral life. He's done a lot of good for a lot of people. Kids, they addressed.
No. I mean his stance. Not saying he was a terrible person. Lived it. I'm saying taking a moral stance is different from taking a political stance, right? So for somebody to say standing up against little boys being shot and little black boys being shot in the street is political, I would say you're wrong. It's not political. You have a human right to not be unlawfully shot in your back by the authorities of the land. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a difference.
Right.
Well, I was saying political because they wanted him to speak out during that particular time because of the race that was going on in North Carolina between Elms and Grant. And so they wanted him because it was this black man that was coming up. And there was this white senator who has, like you said, this history of racism. So they wanted Michael Jordan, who at that time was the biggest athlete in the world.
Right.
If he had endorsed, or if he had said something, that probably would have changed. That would have shifted things, not only for him, but for so many other people. Because how many policies would have been changed that could have changed their lives for so many other people? Right. So I think that's why they was using the political, because that was a political moment that they wanted him to speak
No, I
up.
get that. I mean, the motivation behind it was moral. They wanted him to speak out because they didn't want this guy who was widely known as a racist to take public office and hurt people of his ilk, hurt people that's cut from the same cloth as him. So the motivation behind it was moral and ethical. It wasn't a political thing.
But let's not act like people don't say things unjust and is taken out of context.
What's taken out of context?
I feel like what George said, he said it on a bus to some teammates, and they probably took it out of context. So I feel like that was one of the reasons.
The Republican buy sneakers thing is it's a window into how Michael Jordan actually carried about his entire career. It wasn't about the statement. It was shining a light on the fact that when these things did come up, he didn't step out and say anything. even when he was a multi-million conglomerate and everybody needed him.
Yeah, that's been the big knock on Michael and Tiger Woods for both of their careers, is that they haven't stepped up. They didn't do anything about black rights. They didn't do anything. And it's valid. But, again, it is a choice. And at the time, there had never been a brand as big as MJ's. And I think he was – I don't know. I mean, obviously, he didn't really say how he felt about him, his feelings on those matters. But I think he was at least slightly concerned that it could damage a brand that had become bigger than even really – almost bigger than the NBA. I think it was kind of bigger than the NBA, But – I personally wouldn't have chosen that route, but I just don't think it affects him.
It's a part of
as the greatest basketball player of all time. I just don't think it affects him.
But I think for some people, it should be noted it is a part of it. Like myself, like Jay Williams, like it's a part of it, for a lot of people. But it was a good window into that conversation. Okay, so we got a big college fan. We got a big college football fan on the podcast with us today. And so we want to get into a little bit of this Tua versus Joe Burrow situation here. We want to get first. Let me get your opinion on how they went in the draft and who you think will have a better all career. And then how do you think their games compare and contrast?
Basically, I think Tua is a better all-around athlete and quarterback than Joe Burrow. I think the one thing and I think he would have went one if he hadn't got hurt.
Yeah.
I think that injury, that hip, that was a major injury that really raised some question marks. But Joe Burrow just kind of like came on the scene and just took over, you know what I'm saying, and shocked everybody. But Tua was doing that. He has the consistency of doing that over the course of, I think he did that he was the starter for like 2-3 seasons.
Yeah. So,
I mean, he came
would that injury have made you shy away from picking him top? Not if
the medical report came back clear.
Okay.
But I also feel like where you land is also going to have a big determining factor on how your career goes. I feel like Tua could possibly have a better career because of where he's at in Miami. I'm not sold on the Bengals, and I know Joe Burrow
is.
Right. And when I see Joe Burrow, I'm like, okay, they got Andy Dalton 2.0.
Oh no, he called him Andy Dalton, so he's doomed then.
I agree.
You're dooming him to death already.
You got to. First of all, you're not going to get past Baltimore in that division.
Right.
You're not going to get past the Steelers in that division. So at best, you're going to be a 6 seed in the AFC, and you're going to have to play Kansas City.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like he'll stack the stat sheet, but when it comes to actually like winning, I don't see it being more than what Andy Dalton did. And Andy Dalton had a great career in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And he had better receivers.
True.
I mean, he had AJ Green, you know what I'm saying? And he had Chad Johnson and before he left, and what was my man that was number 2 next to Chad?
DJ Husamasa, who's your mama? That was his name, right?
Hushmanzada, yeah.
You guys remember that fantasy football commercial where the guy was trying to say his name and he couldn't say his name?
Yeah.
I'll take TJ Husamasa. Who?
Yeah.
TJ, who's your mama?
I do remember
Are you
that.
talking about TJ Husamasa?
And I feel like Tua had the better career. Joe Burrow had the better season.
Yeah.
I agree. It's tough because we've seen the NFL. I don't know why the NFL, it's so hard to scout talent. I think a lot of it comes down to that if you're going to be an NFL football player, especially at quarterback, there's so much studying off the field that goes into it that a lot of guys just aren't willing to do. Not everybody's Tom Brady and Russell Wilson and Drew Brees and are going to sit in a film room for hours after they freaking are on the field. Not everyone wants to do that. And I don't really blame them because it's insane. But you can't judge character all the time when you're watching college football. But man, we see how many guys have we seen, the top quarterback guy or the guy that just won the national championship or the guy that was just the everyone said this is the number one guy, go and not really have much of a career.
Yeah.
So I feel like a guy like Joe Burrow who couldn't win the job at Ohio State, and maybe that was Ohio State's bad, or maybe he just wasn't good enough, and he went to a squad that was loaded with NFL talent and loaded on both sides of the ball, and just had an amazing season, on a great team. Tua, it was tank for Tua season. That's all anybody was talking about. It was tank for Tua, and all of a sudden, because of the season LSU had, all of a sudden it's Joe Burrow. I think the injuries are a concern, and I'm not usually one to make predictions on how guys' careers are going to turn out, but I'm just going to say as long as
make
Tua,
one. You have to now because you're a host of a podcast.
I'm going to say as long as Tua stays healthy, Tua's going to be the guy. I think it's also going to hurt that Joe Burrow has to play in a good division right away.
For sure.
Tua doesn't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
So I think,
I think they need to let Tua get healthy. Just sit him on the side literally for a year and just let him
get healthy and watch. But
Yeah.
dude, it never was a thing that quarterbacks had to play right away back, even 15 years ago. That was never a thing. So, just because some guys come in and have success right away, teams started doing it. But we saw with RG3, success right away. Now he's barely in the league or out of the league.
Yeah.
I think that's going to help Tua. It does concern me that Belichick didn't attempt to go get Tua because I thought he would. I thought he'd be the guy, he's going to drop this far. Let's trade up and let's go get Tua. That concerns me, but I think he's going to be better than Joe Burrow.
I do. And I think when it comes to football, it's so many other factors because that's the ultimate team sport.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of your success is going to be predicated on your coaching staff, your team, your seed in your conference. I mean, so many things that come into effect. I mean, Joe Burrow could be great on the field, but it may not translate when it comes to wins and losses. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, that, and then not only that, to piggyback off what you were saying, he's going into a division that you're already the third, if not fourth best team in that division because you're going to have Cincinnati. I mean, well, I don't think Cleveland's going to really do much, but
they might.
but they're poised. They're poised now with a guy who's been playing for a few. To it's tough, man. You're asking someone to go in as a rookie and take a team that we already know isn't very good and turn them into a winner. It's never happened before. The only time we've seen that is when someone gets drafted and steps into a stable situation. There's a reason he didn't want to go to Cincinnati.
Oh yeah,
because he's a smart dude and he's got smart people around him. They're looking like, dude, you could be the best quarterback in the league and not win a game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just the chips are stacked against him.
And then there's not only that, but look at Tom Brady. Yeah, he was a 6th-round draft pick. He wasn't coming out with the hype that Joe Burrow is, but he had time to develop because he was behind Bledsoe.
Right.
Tua has Ryan Fitzpatrick to and that's the ultimate journeyman.
Right.
To help, carry that load, and not also that, but also to give him that tutelage. Right. Joe ain't got that. They let Andy Dalton go. So who's going to be there?
They throw him out there in the water. They can't swim.
Into a division where we talking about Baltimore, it's going to come down to AFC between Baltimore and KC.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tough to even get out your own division, let alone, make some real moves. So yeah, I think Tua is going to have the ultimate. Ultimately, I think he's going to have the better career. I mean, I thought he had a better college career anyway.
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah.
And it was the only question mark is his health.
Right.
And we're only asking that because of the hit that he took playing Mississippi State. Because if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have even been no question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be real interesting to see. Let's stay with college football for a second because I want to get your opinion on what's going on with college football right now and them projecting how the 2020 season is going to go. All right. So right now, conference commissioners and athletic directors across the United States are considering every alternative to college football's current August 29th start date, including playing the entire season in the spring of 2021. The people who ultimately will decide when college football returns will include federal government officials, state governments, plus newly formed NCAA medical advisory panel and a host of other NCAA committees. So it looks like college football is really kind of up in the air for this coming season. How do you feel about that, and what do you think they should do about proceeding with college football in the coming months?
So they need to. I think they need to see what happens on the professional level. I think with the professional sports is going to really dictate a lot for the college athletes, because are you going to play them without any students? You know, are you going to test everybody?
They would have to.
How's that going to happen? And that's tough because college is like.
I think the problem is there's no real governing body, because see, the NFL has a judge, jury, and executioner. They have one person. They have a governing body that can make these uniform decisions, whereas college football, they're talking about leaving certain things up to the states. So how do you do that when if you play in Florida, you can have a full-on football game today with 30,000 people in the stands, but if you play in California, you can't even go to your practice facilities, right? And I think that's the real issue that's going to be going on with the NCAA, because college football is really in the worst position because they don't really have a governing body, and there's so many moving parts that operate as separate entities all the time.
Yeah, it's tough to weigh on an opinion with that, because you're right. I was thinking about this the other day, and guys were talking about, okay, not all the states are going to be able to play, not all the schools are going to be able to play. So should certain conferences or even certain just teams be able to start practicing when other schools can't? And the truth is, it's not fair. But I think, they should. You should not be able to practice. Same with the NBA. Like, if teams are allowed to practice here pretty soon, which it looks like they are, certain states you still can't. So do you let the Miami Heat practice even though the Thunder maybe can't practice? I mean, I think you have to, because you can't not let someone else do something just because another state can't. But it's tough because even within your own division, even in this SEC, there's going to be certain teams that can and can't. So do they have to go to other states to practice and get ready and play their games possibly in other states? Yeah. And not have real home games?
And not only that, but
that's a tough one.
Then you're creating an unfair advantage, because
it is, yeah.
If Georgia and Florida can practice, but Arkansas and Tennessee can't, then that's creating an unfair balance. So how's that going to work?
Right.
It's unfair, but I feel like because it's such a big business, they're just going to have to decide that they got to do it. It's not fair, but that's one of those things where they got to look at it like life isn't fair.
Right.
But then it's just weird though, because who knows when everything's going to get lifted from each state, and then you're competing for a conference championship, you're competing for a national championship, and okay, well, are there still schools that can't even play?
Yeah.
How are we going to crown a champion when there's schools that can't play? Unless you're helping them create a situation in another state where they can practice and get prepared for games and can play games, unless they can do that, which is a big undertaking. I don't know.
Are you going to let your teams go play in a smaller conference that really those games don't mean nothing to Alabama that goes play like a Southern,
Right.
For that smaller school, that's big money for them, because they're getting that TV money for that game.
Right.
So they're going to be missing out on that as well. And do you risk your players getting sick to go play an essentially meaningless game?
Right. It's
going
to be tough.
And I think what's really going to be determined because of how much money the NCAA lost from March Madness had to be closed down.
Yeah.
They are really going to try to get the football back on the field, because they don't want to lose no more money.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what's more important, making money or player and the fan safety?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are right now as a country as a whole. It's like, do we allow people to go back to work and risk more people dying?
Right.
We're going to put these players, and you have to be more cognizant, because these are student athletes. They're not professionals.
Right. So they putting their life on the line and not even getting paid to do it.
Exactly. So and NCAA already has a bad reputation anyway, and how they,
making piss poor decisions, which I don't think is going to. I think they're going to be right on brand and do something that's going to be idiotic again.
Well, as a business, they don't make piss poor decisions. They've just made a lot of money by screwing, essentially screwing people over.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, though.
I mean, if they are looking at their thing as a business, they make great decisions.
Yeah, well, that part. I know people have been seeing the start sit memes floating around. It seems like every couple of days on the internet. So I want to do a live start sit cut right here with us, right? So one of the newest start sit cuts was start sit cut Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, and John Wall. Go.
I would say Damian Lillard to start, Kyrie to sit, John Wall cut. Although the John Wall cut's probably just because Kyrie's won a chip and proven that he can win.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard, I just think does it better on both sides of the floor. And I like Damian Lillard a lot better, and he's from the Bay Area. Represent.
I would start Dame Lillard. I would sit Kyrie, and I would cut John Wall. Only reason why I would sit Kyrie is because he's injury prone, and I don't even know if he's going to be able to play tonight anyway.
Yeah.
So let's let you sit, get yourself healed up.
It depends on how flat the earth is on that particular day. That's what's going to happen tonight.
I think I'm going to start Dame. I'm going to bench Kyrie. I'm going to cut John. For me, this is just assuming all things are great and everybody's healthy. So I'm not even going to take him being injury prone into account. I'm just taking into account leadership, the ability to make plays in the clutch, which I don't think that John Wall has consistently displayed. Where I think Damian has displayed it much more than John Wall and a little bit more than Kyrie Irving. With Damian, I think Damian has the better ability to lead a team himself, and I think Kyrie Irving has done a piss poor job of leading any team that he's been the leader on.
I agree with that. I don't think he's a good leader. Let me ask you this, though. 5 seconds left. You want the ball in Lillard's hands or Kyrie? In their prime, no injuries, just in their prime.
Probably Kyrie.
Yeah,
probably Kyrie.
Kyrie, probably.
I feel the same way, even though I want to say Lillard.
I do, but
I want to say.
I do too.
But Lillard's hit big shots.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
But it's because Kyrie has that one big shot, right?
Yeah,
That's
Kyrie,
the shot. It's because of that one shot.
And he did it in the time when it counts the most.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
where Lillard has consistently come up short.
True.
Yeah.
So I
They
think
hit a big shot in the first round of playoffs. Now, when if they get to the third, I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
It depends, but Kyrie has done it when it matters, so I gotta go with Kyrie.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. There's supposed to be a third fight between Wilder and Fury.
Which I can't wait for.
Me neither. Yeah. But because Wilder's dealing with a torn biceps, he which it sounds weird to say it like that, a torn biceps, but that's how you're supposed to say it. It's a torn biceps. That's a scientific way.
Oh, okay.
And and now they're talking about Joshua fighting Fury, and Fury says he'll do it. Now, the big debate is Wilder wanted the third fight, and he should get it because they just had 2 epic fights.
And it's in the contract, I thought.
Wilder has to agree to it.
Right.
But Wilder also needs to heal, and in my opinion, Wilder needs to get better before he tries to go back for a third fight with Fury.
Agree. I think a warm-up fight.
For sure. And this is the other thing. I want Wilder to get better because I think he needs to, because I don't think anybody expected Fury to come out the way he did and dominate that fight like that.
No.
I want Wilder to get better. I want him to have that Sugar Ray Robinson moment, that Muhammad Ali moment where he goes, oh, shoot, I've been able to do it this way my entire career, but now I got to switch it up a little bit, kind of like Joshua just did to come back and beat Ruiz.
Yeah.
Who he should have never lost to anyway, but he became a better fighter because of the loss. And the only thing I wish I could have seen with Mayweather is I wish I could have seen him lose, because I would love to see him after a loss, how he bounces back, because everyone always says that's what the great ones really do.
Yeah. But
with him and the I forget the guy's name, the other undefeated guy we have in boxing from back in the day, we never know with those guys because they never lost. Right. So you don't know how they respond to losing. But you know why I want to see this fight with Joshua and Fury is because I want one champion.
Yes.
So when Wilder does come back, it's for all the marbles.
Yeah.
And he can still fight, if he comes back and it's Joshua with all the belts, then he can beat him and fight Fury again. If it's Fury with all the belts, then he can go fight Fury for all the belts. I don't like seeing multiple champions
just
in a
floating
weight
all
division.
over the place. It's like college football.
It's stupid.
Everybody's a champion. You get a championship. You get a championship. No.
It's stupid. It's stupid. And quite honestly, Joshua does deserve it. You can't say he doesn't deserve it. If he didn't deserve it, it'd be like, no, let's just watch Wilder. But I want to see this fight.
I do want to see.
In my opinion, I
see
think it would
that
be a better fight. I think Joshua and Fury would be a better fight because they're both boxers.
Yeah.
True.
Like, they can both box. Wilder, I like his personality, and he has a wicked right hand. I mean, if he catch you, it's over.
Right.
But he's basically fighting the whole fight to catch you with one shot.
Right. Right.
And in my opinion, he lost both of those fights. So I really don't need to see a third fight from him because I never thought that he was.
Oh, I gotta see a third fight, bro.
I mean, it would be good.
Because in my opinion, he knocked him out the first fight, and it was by the grace of. I think the count was way too long, which people have slowed the video down and confirmed that it was. So in my opinion, he won that fight by knockout, and then he lost the second fight. And so I really want to see. I think we need a third fight. I think we need it. And I also have been hearing the rumors. You brought up Floyd Mayweather, JT. I also have been hearing the rumors about Floyd saying, I want to train Wilder, which for me is like,
that's crazy.
It's creating a monster.
That's
crazy. I think if Wilder had half of the defensive ability that Floyd Mayweather has, what he could be is it would be insane. It would be and
it's crazy because he has the athleticism to do it. He has the length to do it. He does. Yeah, that'd be crazy. That'd be great. I'll tell you why I want to see it, because I really like Wilder. I really like him as a dude, and I don't like when people get written off. I mean, let's be honest. Whatever the reason was, he got beat very badly. I couldn't believe. I couldn't even believe. I watched that fight. I was like, I can't even believe he's getting beat this, because he's never has.
Right.
And the first fight was, even though I think he lost, he may have knocked him out, but the rest of the fight he lost. But he wasn't getting beaten badly. It was a great fight, and he landed some big shots. So I want to see, because champions, especially in fighting, are supposed to be able to bounce back, and he's really a champion. So I want to see. I want to see what he does.
Yeah,
I think it would be, but I do want to get Joshua in the mix, because right now I feel like he's outside looking in.
Yeah,
and everybody's and I don't really know what he would do against Wilder or Fury.
Yeah.
So I really would like to see that happen, so that way we can get a true sense of who is the real champion
of the world. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that'll be dope to see. Hopefully you see that at some point when we get out of this quarantine situation. Okay, so let's end on this with a couple quick news updates. Cowboys signed Andy Dalton. I'm just gonna say it was dumb. Okay, that's all. Like, I don't have much on that. Like, I just think it was dumb, and I don't know what they're doing.
Why do you think it was dumb though?
I think it was dumb because you brought in a guy who is not, even if Dak holds out, he's not going to keep your team afloat, in my opinion. Andy Dalton is not a guy who can, if Dak decides, I'm not coming back and I want you to trade me to another team. Andy Dalton is your threat. Andy Dalton is your backup plan. I just thought that was, why not you? They would have been better off going to draft somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but didn't they pay him backup money? They didn't pay him starter money.
But I don't like it, because what that tells me is that you don't value Dak Prescott. And
they don't, because they would have paid him.
And I don't want it to become a racial thing, but I have to say it. If Dak was white, he would have been got his money.
I tend to agree with that, because I really don't, because they paid Tony Romo, and Tony Romo wasn't half the quarterback.
I mean, if you go and sign Andy Dalton, but you don't sign the guy that has been winning, has started 48 games, has not missed a game, has won a playoff game for you, is completing 65% of his passes. You don't sign this man to.
They gave Tony Romo his money. He ain't even won a playoff game.
Right. So I felt like that was a slap in the face to Dak Prescott, and that's also letting him know that, look, if you don't sign, we're happy to go with Andy.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to agree and disagree. I think Tony Romo was a better quarterback, but, and man, the race thing.
Did Dak Prescott?
Yeah. I think he is. I think he was for sure. But I also think that Dak more than deserves that big payday. And I like Dak. I think he should be. He's the kind of person and the player that deserves the contract that he's been waiting for. And I guess they don't believe in him. I really hope it's not race, because I mean,
I think he saw Tony Romo as a son, and Tony Romo got a lot more leash than he deserved on the field. And I think that was because they had a very close personal relationship.
That might be true.
I don't think that they thought that Tony Romo was a better quarterback. I never liked
Tony Romo as a quarterback.
I don't either. I don't think that they thought that, and I don't think that they think that Dak is in any way, shape, or form in the same realm as Andy Dalton as a quarterback. I just think that they're trying to bully him into taking way less money than he deserves, because it's really the market. Like, everybody's making it's a quarterback, everybody's making $30-40 million a year.
You signed Carson Wentz to $100 million plus contract.
Yep.
And he's been hurt every time y'all go to the playoffs.
That's exactly where we was going next. So the Eagles did something that some people was calling dumb or kind of controversy, which I don't think it was controversy. They drafted Jalen Hurts. And to me, as an Eagles fan, and I think most Eagles fans feel this way, and if you don't, then let us know in the comments. But I feel that when I saw that happen, I went, cool, made sense to me. I love Carson Wentz, but he's injury prone. He's never been that guy that you can rely on since his first year in the league, even his MVP season, the season that he was an MVP top candidate. He's never been that guy that you can rely on to be there. So what's wrong with having a backup plan? He's the side chick. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts is just the side chick. Carson Wentz is the main John. You know what I'm saying? Just because you got a little side chick don't mean you don't love your main John. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I was actually really curious as to your take on that. I think that the big debate is it good to have a good backup plan? I mean, I don't think that guy's going to be – I don't think Hurts is going to be a big-time starter in the league, but you need a backup.
Right, you need a backup.
I don't know who the Eagles' backup is right now, but you need a backup player. And with Doug Peterson fancies himself, and I think most people consider him an offensive innovator, and we see what's going on with what's his name in New Orleans, and they use him on this sometimes at the same – yeah, they use him at the same time as Breeze.
Yeah.
And he might be the predecessor to Breeze. He might not. But I think with Peterson, I think it's innovative. My big question is, if you have a lot of other needs, I don't know if that's a good pick.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good pick.
But here's the issue. Here's the thing with that is we won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback because our starting quarterback is consistently hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If you go through something like that, you would be foolish to not be constantly thinking we need another plan B, because we let our plan B go. Because when we had a quality plan B, we were able to keep the train on the tracks, and we won a Super Bowl doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
it's true, but that's also an anomaly. That's also an anomaly, because that doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really happen like that usually. But also,
right? But it did. So we have to operate like we can do this again. Plus, we have the talent, right? We have a Super Bowl caliber team, and so. You have to be thinking in your mind, this is something that happens, so we have to learn from it, right? We see that Carson is consistently not available, right? And we see that if we have a capable backup, we can go pretty far with him. So to me, you have to value that and go, we got to find a plan B.
But my question is, then why pay him so much money if you feel like you need to find somebody to back him up?
Because he's the starter. Like, you pay him because starters don't grow on trees. You have to pay him because he's a very talented quarterback who is a starter in the NFL. It's the same thing I was saying about Dak. You got to pay him because starters don't grow on trees.
But I understand that. But you also won a Super Bowl with a backup, so that lets me know that you don't need him to win you a Super Bowl.
That's not true.
So
that's not true, because we don't win that Super Bowl with Carson Wentz was going to win the MVP that season. He was going to win it. Like he was first. So we don't even get to that Rams win that we got toward the end of the season that we needed. We don't even get to that game without Carson Wentz playing his ass off for 16 games. right? Nick Foles is proof right now. Nick Foles is 2 teams removed from us, and he only left like a year ago, right? So he's not. Don't make the mistake of thinking because I need a backup, that backup can. Don't wife up your side chick because she's your side chick for a reason, right?
Yeah. What happens is Nick Foles is able to do that because you don't game plan for Nick Foles, and then when you only have 2 or 3 weeks of footage to go off of to game plan for him the Super Bowl, that's not enough time.
Nick Foles is not a starter.
No, but that's why it works. If Tom Brady plays that entire first season where he had to go in for Drew Bledsoe, they may not even make the playoffs because now you're game planning for Tom based on a whole body of work instead of only preparing for him at the end of the season. Exactly. Otherwise, that Super Bowl doesn't happen, and maybe we never have the legend of Tom Brady. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, thinking about it, the Eagles have filled other needs. So
yeah, we ended up getting we made a move to get your guy from the Niners. We drafted high. We drafted one of the top, wide receivers that on a lot of people's mock boards. So they made another moves, but you would be foolish to not value that backup, especially if being an Eagles fan, you seen how we playing. Nick Foles won us a playoff game before he left because Carson Wentz was hurt again. So you would be foolish to not have somebody there to shore up that the team if Carson Wentz is injured because he's always injured.
Nick Foles might be the greatest Philadelphia Eagle of all time.
He might be. Okay.
Yeah.
3 cheesesteaks for him every time he in the city. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Steve Ballmer bought the Forum.
Yeah.
And the Clippers are about to move to Inglewood.
Yeah.
I just drove by it the other day.
Yeah,
but they're not going to play in the Forum though. He's building a whole new stadium for them.
So he bought the Forum because the situation was the Forum had the company that owns the Forum had like a non-compete deal or something like that where Ballmer couldn't build a Clippers stadium on that lot. If you've ever been over there, I guess for people who don't live in LA, it's like a huge plot of land. Like when I first moved to LA, it was empty. It was just like a huge, it was just a Forum and emptiness, right? Mm-hmm. That on that same plot of land, they are building the Rams and Chargers brand new stadium, which is huge. They also have the Forum, and there's enough land to build another stadium. That's where Steve Ballmer wanted to build the stadium. The problem is that he had to fight with the ownership group of the Forum, which I think is Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So he had to fight with the ownership and
it was owned by Dolan.
Yeah. And so it was a non-compete thing where they were like, no, you can't build here. So he's just so rich that in order to build the stadium he wants to build, he just bought his neighbors, pretty much. That's what happened.
Yeah, he bought it from one of probably the worst owner in the entire NBA. Dolan's an idiot.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, I think Inglewood is finna. I mean, that's gonna be the spot right there, man.
Crazy over there.
It's gonna be interesting to see how the Clippers do in Inglewood and the Lakers at the Staples Center because Yeah. I mean, Lakers, LA is still gonna be. It's still Laker town.
It's always gonna be a Lakers town. It's still gonna be. They can put up the biggest, nicest, newest stadium ever known to the NBA, and LA is still gonna be the Lakers
nation. So it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. John, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Yes.
It's fun. We got to get you back on at some point to talk some more. Tell us where everybody can follow you, what you got coming up next, and how they can stay abreast on everything that you're doing.
Yeah. So first, thank you for having me. Appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun. Facebook, John Chaffin, IG at John Chaffin, Twitter, John Chaffin, same handle all across the board. Right now, man, it's just trying to see where this COVID is going to take us. Right now the industry is kind of shut down, so I'm just writing and doing some voiceover auditions and whatnot, trying to get that off the ground. So we're gonna see what happens. But right now, I'm kind of at the mercy of this pandemic to see how
as are we.
Yeah.
We're talking about how we used to play shows in front of people.
Right.
It was crazy. We'd go to this room and there'd be this thing that was coming off the floor. It's called a stage.
Yeah.
And there'd be people there and we would perform music for them.
Lights and everything.
I'm going to tell my grandkids about this. They're not going to believe me, but it was crazy.
Yeah, it
Oh
was dope.
wow, in person. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And people paid money for us to do this.
Yeah, they paid us
Oh
to do it, bro.
snap.
It was
That's
nuts.
crazy.
Mhm.
It was nuts. I'm at Joe Connor 33 everywhere. You can follow the Facebook, the Twitter. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for us on YouTube, Backstage Sports on YouTube. Also, like and or subscribe to the Spotify page if you are listening. If you just want to listen to the streams, you can do so on Spotify.
Everything for me is at JT Harker, and repeating what Joe said, go follow everything Backstage Sports. And so far, we appreciate the supporters. We're getting a lot of love on all the social media and the YouTube, and we just started this about a month ago, so we're excited.
So appreciate you guys. Please keep streaming. Please keep sharing. Please keep arguing, even though I typically win most of the arguments. Please stay safe and stay home. Peace.